Welcome to the kitchen table, where the jankiest Magic the Gathering decks battle it out for glory, but most of all for your viewing pleasure. And to make it even extra fun, we have a little leaderboard, where the winner will win a Modern Horizons 2 Collector Booster, thanks to our partner Cardmarket. To participate in this leaderboard, there's only one thing you need to do, and that is predict the winner of the next match and leave it in the comments below. We will announce the next match at the very end of this video, so stay with us until the end. But now sit back and relax, and let's ask Bram which two decks will enter the arena this time.
This time we head to the forest where a pack of squirrels encountered a tribe of goblins. But before we start, let's look at those decks. The squirrel deck obviously has a lot of squirrels, with the deep forest hermit taking care of them, and there are two special ones called Chatterfang and Tosky. An army of squirrels is still an army, says the squirrel mob, and they will be praying in the squirrel sanctuary to defeat those goblins. And if there are too many squirrels, they can always take part in an evolutionary experiment to create more squirrels. On the other side of the forest, there are a lot of mountains where we can find iconic goblin cards like the Lackey, the War Chief, the Siege Gang Commander, and there's also Pashalik Mons. He brought his aunt and they're going to revenge their offspring because apparently they were eaten by a voracious dragon.
Fight!
We already had some iconic battles here at Casual MTG Decks, but this one maybe is going to top it all. It's squirrels versus goblins. Let's look at the hands. I see a tireless provisioner. He's gathering some nuts for those squirrels. And the Drake Keeper, he will make sure there aren't any left. Of course, there's also a very chic squirrel. It's the Sovereign, it's the Squirrel Noble. Now let's look at some goblins. I already see a Beetleback Chief in the hand of the Goblin player. There's also a Goblin in a mine with a helmet called Skirk Prospector. And we're going to find out if the Goblins will avenge their offspring. First land for the squirrels, followed up by a goblin with a helmet, the Prospector, and here is In Search of Greatness. That's an enchantment and you can scry one, or you can play a permanent that's bigger than a permanent on the battlefield for free every turn. More mountains for the goblins, and we're going to see a Goblin Instigator that comes into the battlefield with a goblin, and there's an attack from the goblin with the helmet. First up, In Search of Greatness, giving us a free tireless provisioner. That means we still have 3 mana open. Great play from these squirrels. There's the treasure token, that means 4 mana is available. And here is the Squirrel Sovereign. Now let's see what the goblins have in store for us. This land gives white, red and black mana. Instigator is being stacked to the Prospector, giving us Goblin Matron, and he's going to search for another Goblin. Great start also from the Goblins. I can feel this is going to be an epic match. Goblin player carefully looking at all his crazy critters, and he will find a munitions expert. That's a Goblin. That's actually a removal spell that can be flashed in. Squirrels, beware of that crazy goblin. First we are going to scry with In Search of Greatness. Let's see what's going to happen. We're going to put that on the bottom and we'll draw a forest, meaning we have 5 mana available. There's also another treasure token entering the battlefield from the provisioner. So the squirrels, they are living it large with all that treasure. And here is Drake Keeper coming into the battlefield with 2 crazy squirrels. 2 tokens that will be 2/2s because of the Sovereign. And no attacks, we head back to the land of the Goblin. 2 mana is tapped for the munitions expert that will take care of the Squirrel Noble, and we head back to the land of the squirrels. First some scry action, that's going to the bottom. And we draw a Squirrel Wrangler. Now let's see if we're going to see an attack this turn. Goblins have 1 mana open, but of course they also have the Goblin with the helmet, the Skirk Prospector that could generate red mana, so we always have to be careful if we're the Squirrel player. Now the Drake Keeper, he's giving his squirrels +1, +0 and menace, and there's an attack for 4 damage. Now we head back to the land of the Goblin, back to the mountains, and here is Ward Bogart Auntie. She's the Goblin Shaman that can get back goblins from the dead. Straight out of Indiana Jones. And here's back an exquisite squirrel, the Squirrel Noble. So now we have 2/2 squirrels and we're going to see some blocks. Or not. Goblin player is going to take the damage. No, there's a double block. So 1 token is going to die. No, it's sacrificed for the benefit of the squirrels of Strixhaven to get more squirrels. Now I don't think the Goblin player took the damage. Now he did. So 2 cards have been drawn back to the Goblins now. Back to the mountains. First, Ward is going to take back a creature. Munitions Expert being sacked. And that's coming back. Killing the exquisite squirrel with the fancy hat. And here is a Goblin Burrows. That's the 4th land for the Goblin player. We're going to tap some mana. Here is a Goblin Chieftain giving other goblins +1/+1 and haste. So that means goblins will attack. Ward will attack as well. We're going to see a double block. So a lot of casualties on the battlefield. There's 1 squirrel left that's staring at the faces of those crazy goblins. 14, 17 squirrels will scry. Did they miss their draw? Let's see. They keep it a little bit too casual, I think. Masked Vandal. That's a 1/3 squirrel to do some blocking. They probably got confused from all the goblins shouting at the other side of the battlefield. Here's another one. Sling Gang Lieutenant brings along 2 crazy goblins, and he can sacrifice goblins to have players lose 1 life and the Goblin player will gain 1 life. Now a big attack from 5 goblins. Squirrels, they will have to do some blocking. They will both block the Munitions Expert. And together with a Squirrel token, those 2 will die. But 8 damage is being dealt. So at the end step, the Squirrel player can still play a Verdant command, creating 2 squirrels and gaining 3 life. So that's a pretty good play. Back to the squirrels now. First they scry. And now they draw this time. And that's a great card because it's the Deep Forest Hermit. And he brings along 4 squirrels. And all squirrels will get +1/+1. Now this one won't stick around forever. He has Vanishing Tree. But a great play. Just the card the squirrels needed. And now an attack from a Masked Squirrel. Dealing 2 damage to the goblins. 12-12, head back to the Goblin land. We head back to the mountains. Let's see what is in the mind of the Skirk Prospector. I see still a lot of goblins in the hand of the Goblin player. There's another Prospector. What else do we have? There's a Beetleback Chief as well. I think there's also a Goblin War Chief. So the Goblin player is taking his time. Maybe they're arguing who is going to be first on the battlefield. 4 mana is tapped. And that is a Goblin Trash Master. Other goblins get +1/+1. So that means the goblins who are 1/1 are now 3/3 goblins. That means those squirrels will have to do some double blocking to get rid of some goblins. They will still take 3 damage. They will lose 3 squirrels, but they will also kill 3 goblins. So when the dust settles in the forest, we head back to the squirrels. And we scry first. And we draw a shitter spitter. That's a squirrel machine. It's an artifact. So let's see what will be the play of the squirrels. Will they go nuts with the shitter spitter? Yes, they will play this crazy artifact. Now the trash master, he can destroy artifacts. But maybe the goblins missed that. That wouldn't surprise me with all the arguing the goblins do. There's another land. Comes into play tapped. 4 mana for a Beetleback Chief. He brings along 2 arguing goblins. They all attack. They all have haste. They all have +2/+2. Here's another squirrel being shot out of the cannon. You see some double blocks. That means we still are going to get some damage. Let's see how much damage those goblins are dealing. I think 1 damage. 1 goblin will come through. 1 is being sacked from the Sling Gang Lieutenant. Now the squirrels, they needed to take 3 extra damage, I think. Well, they didn't draw a card last time, so I think the squirrel player is a little bit confused. I can blame him with all those goblins. I would be confused too. Now let's see what the draw is. First, to scry or not to scry, that's the question. Squirrels are in need of some help. We're going to sacrifice a squirrel with the shitter spitter, meaning squirrels now get +1/+1. Here's a land. Squirrel Wrangler. That's not a squirrel, that's a druid. Going to create 1 squirrel. Only 2 squirrels and 2 druids are guarding the pile of nuts from those hungry goblins. What will they do? Will they take all the squirrels, put them in a stew? Will Auntie Ward return with a good recipe? Let's see. Here's the Offspring's Revenge, and that means there's going to be the return of the goblin. At the beginning of combat, it's going to be Beetleback Chief bringing along 2 more goblins. Big attack from the goblins. And then there's the Sling Gang Lieutenant as well. Always ready to throw some goblins in the face of the squirrels. That's going to be a lot of goblin power. And I don't think the squirrels can survive. They can count their nuts on 1 hand. They only have 4 blockers. And I see 6 goblins enter the battlefield. Sling Gang Lieutenant is staying home. But those goblins, they all have +2/+2. So that will be 6 unblocked damage. And then the Sling Gang Lieutenant will do some shenanigans. Goblins are baking a big squirrel pie. It's going to be lethal damage. Because that's 6. And then 2 more from the Sling Gang Lieutenant.
Knockout!
Bon appetit, goblins!
So this was this week's match. Check out the community tab of this channel to find out where you are in the leaderboard, or learn how you can join the leaderboard by clicking on this link here. But most importantly, predict who will be the winner of the next match and leave it in the comments below. And Bram will tell us now which 2 decks will battle it out in the next epic match.
Next time we're going to the zoo with Minsk and Boo, and they will face off against some albino dragons. Here are the decks, leave in the comments who you think will win, and always keep it casual.